You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Another thing that did drop at D23 was our first trailer for Skeleton Crew, which we've been wondering when they were going to drop this for a while now. Of course, this was supposed to come out last year. It got delayed till the holiday 2024 season due to the writers' strikes and various other things that delayed this. All we've known about this for a while. We've had a celebration panel and everything. We know Jude Law's in it. And we know it's been described as kind of a Stranger Things meets Amblin meets The Goonies meets Stand By Me in space. And you got a lot of that in this trailer. Just overall, what are your overall thoughts on it? What we saw, what you're expecting for this show, and what your overall expectations are for this series?
I really liked the trailer. I was surprised by the trailer in a couple of ways. Like, full truth, I was looking forward to this series, but it was definitely, in terms of the projects I was anticipating, it was down the list in just in terms of, like, because I love the premise and stuff, but when you've got stuff like the Acolyte and Andor, that's probably going to take the attention away from this somewhat. But I'm really intrigued by this series, and as you said, the feeling of like kind of Amblin era movies like E.T., Stand By Me, the Goonies, as you said, it was really felt here in this trailer. And there's a thing I really like, and I know some people weren't that big into it so far as I've seen on social media, but the home planet that these kids start out on, the fact that it looks so much like a suburban, like an American suburbia, actually kind of works for me, because I feel like it really is tapping into that.
I still don't know. It felt weird to me. Like, I'm sure it's gonna be fine when the show happens, but the fact that we've never seen like a middle class suburban area in this universe, it's just off-putting. Like you know it's got to be there. Like, it makes sense. We have the richest of the rich and the poorest of the poor plants, so it makes sense that we have this like middle class suburban thing
straight in the middle.
But just like seeing that and seeing like suburban neighborhoods and the little, like, I liked the bikes. The bikes were nice.
Yeah, the bikes were cool. It really captured that
stuff.
Stranger Things feel, didn't it? Like with the kids on the bike.
It certainly did. But it was a little off-putting at first. I was like, is this a Star Wars show? Like, that took me off guard. But I think once we got into the full adventure aspect of this show, I was hooked. Like, the minute like there was so like immediate, like when they're like, oh, I found this buried thing in the woods. You want to come see it? It's like immediate. Well, that's Stand By Me right there. And just, I do love the whimsy of these characters. You have our main character, the boy who's just, the first thing you see him is looking up at his like little like toys of starships and stuff, and looking at, you know, his first venture into the greater galaxy. I'm immediately like captivated by these kids, and I know people were very some people were thrown up at, oh, it's gonna be kiddie bullshit because it's a cast of young characters. But I mean, you look at Stranger Things, you look at like all those other movies that we mentioned.
Like the Amblin movies, they're pretty much like you can watch them even as an adult and feel and not feel like the film is talking down to you in an area. Like E.T. gets dark. E.T. gets really into like emotions, like deep emotions. That's why so many people were touched by it as a film. But as you said, like I really already started to connect with these kids. Obviously, got to talk about Neil.
Oh, my son.
He's
my new son.
He's a sweet little baby boy, and we all love him. It's just the most adorable thing. I feel like Nubs Nation is about to get a real test here with the Neil Nation rising up for sure, which I'm a proud member of now.
He's got the perfect voice too.
Yeah, this like completely innocent voice is just fantastic. But I really think that the suburbia thing is going to work for the show, because I feel like John Watts and Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, what they're doing here is they're really tapping into this kind of escapist feel that I think all of us have always wanted as Star Wars fans. Like, we've all probably had a little bit of at some point, whenever we got into Star Wars, whether it was a kid or as an adult, we've all kind of had that escapist fantasy of, oh, imagine if like I could just go off into the Star Wars galaxy and have adventures. And so I really like the idea that the planet that they live on is almost so aesthetically far removed from, like, there's still stuff there that is Telltale Star Wars. You have your droids, you have like the screens and the speeders and stuff, but it feels alien because it's so suburban, and the fact that when we get onto the ship and we go out into space, there's the more familiar aspects when they go into the outer rim. That really kind of suits the whole escapist feel of these kids getting to go on their own Star Wars adventure and meet all these familiar Star Wars things, including a potential Jedi in the form of Jude Law, which, that's a question I want to ask you, Andrew. So the trailer ends with that stinger of Jude Law showing up and levitating the key and taking the hood off and looking very dramatically at the kids, and they say, "You're a Jedi." But here's the thing, though. Do you think he is a Jedi, or do you think he's something else?
I don't think so. I think he could, I do think he's force sensitive. I think it could be kind of like a kind of character that Haja was in the Kenobi show, where he starts off as more of this like con artist, this swindler kind of character, but whereas he was just like using illusions to depict the force. I do think he is force sensitive, but I don't think, at least when we see him here, he's using his powers fully for good. I don't think he's a Sith. I don't think he's a dark sider, but I think he's more of like a schemer, a swindler kind of character. But I do think a lot of the crux and a lot of the heart and his big arc of the series is going to be him learning to care for the kids and eventually saving them in that big moment.
Yeah.
Someone did point out,
very Amblin, isn't it?
It's very Amblin. Alex Damon of Star Wars Explained did point out in his recap, and I just want to echo that, of that it does feel it feels the most like a TV show out of these recent shows that we've had. It feels like the potential of each episode could be them exploring a new location, a new planet. And again, the way it looks, it feels very like, oh, this is new, but I also like it because we always talk about them not having too much in terms of new ideas or exploring the same areas. And of course, when we get something new like the Acolyte, people complain about it. So we have something like this where, yes, it's tied to the Mandoverse because we do see some of the pirates from season 3. They were on display at D23. They showed up in the Celebration teaser last year. I don't think they were in the trailer here.
The wolf guy, like one moment, yeah.
Also, the fact that he's the same species as the Wolf Jedi in the Tarkovsky Clone Wars. Yeah, that's just
been a long time coming. Yeah,
been a long time coming. But I love the look of the droid to SM33 or Smi. Nice little nod to Peter Pan there. He's going to be voiced by Nick Frost. I just think the casting
so
is
happy
great.
about that. And
like Carrie Condon as a school teacher, she's great. Nick Frost, and then Jude Law, who I've always been a big fan of. I'm very excited to see him lead this show. I wouldn't be upset if he was a Jedi. That's just my inkling of what we've seen from this trailer, because we see just the hood, and it just seems like the kind of thing where like you start him off and you see these kids see him as a hero, and then it turns out, oh, he's kind of a hack, and then he eventually does become a hero at the end of the show. I think there's a nice little arc, and it fits, like you said, it fits for a story like this. It has those same Spielbergian kind of story beats here.
It's a thing Spielberg's a real fan of, isn't he? Like these kind of like less than perfect father figures who kind of like evolve into a more kind of traditionally heroic father figure. I mean, you mentioned Peter Pan with like the Smee droid. Obviously, Spielberg did Hook, and that was all about a very flawed like Peter Pan becoming the kind of childish, whimsical character again. I also love Nick Frost's casting in this. It's great. And I love that he's got kind of a pirate voice as well. "'Tis dangerous out here in space." Like a more gravelly version of his character from Hot Fuzz. I love it. I'm also going to get to do a Who Watch episode on this show for sure. Because Nick Frost I'm not doing it for the trailer. We'll save it for when he shows up in the show. But I get to do that because Nick Frost did appear in Doctor Who. And that's just another reason to have a smile on my face. That we can continue it. We've had a Who Watch in nearly every show so far. So yeah, I'm glad.
Gotta get another one in here. No, this has been a show that I've been like kind of championing since it's been announced, just for the fact that its premise has really stuck out to me. Also, the fact that it was John Watts, who's the showrunner who directed, I should say, the MCU Spider-Man trilogy, which I'm a big fan of. I love the coming of age aspects of those movies. So I think him telling the coming of age story in this universe, I think there's great potential to it. But also just because of the fact that it's really been overshadowed since it's been announced by nearly every other project. So I'm glad that it's finally going to have its time in the spotlight to like get that attention. And in a way, I do see why they had this panel at D23 and didn't say announce the season 2 of The Acolyte, because that would
Yeah.
immediately overshadow it. You kind of saw that already
That's a
with
good point. Yeah.
Andor season 2 and the Mando teaser, which I'm going to say this quietly. I didn't like that much. So
I
Lilo and Stitch teaser that was 10 seconds had me more excited for that. I don't know where that came from. But to like have that moment in the spotlight, I think is going to be good for the show, and I think it's got the potential to surprise a lot of people.
That's exactly
I don't think it's
what I'm
going
hoping.
to. I'm not saying it's going to be the best Star Wars show, but it's got so many aspects and tidbits to it that I think could make this a really special watch, especially during the holiday season. I know some people have been speculating that it might have some Life Day elements to the story. I think that would be perfect for a holiday release. And
I'd
again,
happily watch a Christmas special of it.
Yeah,
It looks
these
awesome enough that you could do an actual Life Day episode and
having
make it work.
these characters who, like you said, are in this suburban world. They get whisked up into the greater Star Wars galaxy, and having them have that idealization of looking at these, these starships in these hollow movies, and then immediately like thinking the ship is a buried Jedi temple. It's like the whimsy, and it just reminds me of like when we were young and our age and just like making up stories, but like actually seeing that in the Star Wars universe, I think has the potential to be something really, and like Stranger Things was with the kids playing D&D. It's like their in-universe version of that. Here, I think it's got potential to be really fun. And I personally am very excited for when the show comes out. I'm optimistic, I will say. I think it's got the potential to surprise. And I'm pretty excited. And Neil is my son. He is my son, and I will hear nothing else. Never ever say anything bad about my boy, because his father will be coming for you if you do.
And he means it as well. He's got a lightsaber now. Don't test Andrew.
I'm gonna wait to reveal it, but I do.
Last minute prediction. I'm gonna say, do you think Carson Teva will show up? Because we did see a couple of X-wings fly around there. I could kind of see that.
I think we're gonna get someone from the Mandalorian. Obviously we know we're getting Vane, but I think someone from the cast is gonna show up, whether that's Din himself or Carson Teva has kind of been the Nick Fury in a way.
Agent Coulson, I would say.
Or Agent Coulson. He showed up in Ahsoka. He was a great like link between Mando and Ahsoka. So I would not be shocked at all if he does show up in Skeleton Crew. I wouldn't mind it.
I wouldn't mind Zeb showing up, because the thought of Zeb dealing with kids is just hilarious to me.
I hope they keep this running gag going of him showing up in every show but Ahsoka. He just don't have him in there. Just keep throwing him in all the other shows.
Like I didn't think he'd be in the Mando film, but that's just nuts. The shot of him sitting with Din in a new Razor Crest is crazy. Like, like how do you feel about the Razor Crest? Like,
I don't like it. I want to like if they just rebuild, like it's just a new one, they remake it, cool. But I like this.
I do like the N1.
I like this thing a lot, and I don't know why you would introduce that and then just be like, Razor Crest, bring it back.
Is it going to be like, is the N1 going to be like attached to it then, and they're going to do some like kind of, because I'd be all for that. That would be cool.
That would be cool.